We're live.
Good morning, my fellow Calexiters. Today is January the 23rd of 2022. We are now opening the session for today of the Calexit Congress. We're going to start by going over some of what we agreed on last meeting. I'll start by stating the rules and regulations that we had agreed on last week, and then we'll see if anyone has any further input, if there's anything, maybe now that we've sat on it a week, maybe there's something that we feel isn't necessary, or maybe there's something we feel should be in there. So we decided that candidates may not vote on the seat for which they are running. So an example, if I run for CEO, I will not vote on the position of CEO. I can vote on the others, just not the one that I'm going to run for. For eligibility of voting, only currently voting members, current members who have voting power, may partake in this vote. And to vote, starting next week at the beginning of the meeting will be the start time for casting vote, and the end time will be 1 hour before the following Sunday. So we will have 1 week, shy by 1 hour, 1 week to get our votes in. And that way everyone gets a chance. You know, there will be plenty of time. You can think on it, you know, if you need to. You can also vote in absentia. So if you can't make the meeting, but you do want to cast a vote, you can do so by either messaging myself or Marcus, or you can send me or Marcus an email. I would prefer if you do send an email or message, please send it to both Marcus and myself, just so that there's full record. We've got full transparency and accountability. That'll hopefully prevent any naysayers, you know. So then the positions are CEO, President, Vice President, Secretary, Judicial Officer, or Judicial Committee Officer, Head of Outreach, and Press Manager. For those positions, so far, here are the announced candidates. For CEO, we have myself, Jason Wright. For President, we have Marcus Ruiz-Evans. For Vice President, we have none other than Rabbi Axelman. For Secretary, we don't have anyone yet. So if you'd like to, you know, if you've got the skills, the note-taking and, you know, all of that, and you'd like to put them to use, that would be a good spot. Judicial Committee Officer also is still open. For Head of Outreach, we have Robert Stark, my co-chair, and Press Manager is also open. So, I'd like to ask the group, first of all, how do we feel about this? How do we feel about the rules and the regulations that we agreed on? Are we all still good? Okay. So I did have one thought of a potential addition I honestly, I could go either way. It was Scott, and I would love some feedback from the group. My thinking is that since there's only one person running in each of these positions, we're not going to have a vote between candidates. And so, in my thinking, maybe we should have a yes-no vote. So, on the matter of CEO, do you vote yay or nay for Jason Wright? And then we can tally up, how many yays and how many nays. And hey, if I get 5 no's and 1 yes, that says a lot, and it would be important to know, I think. How would the group feel about this?
I'm impartial.
Is that Robert Stark down there in the right?
Yeah. Robert, do you have any opinions on this? Okay. Your call. Your call. I mean, I do think, yeah, sure. Your call. Whatever you think.
Well, give me some feedback, brother. I listen.
I think we're overthinking this. I think this is really simple. We just hold a vote on the 30th. We tell people now, you have till now to the 30th to get your vote in, text, email, whatever. If you really don't like these people, don't vote for them. If we get a couple votes in on each person, we're good. Part of the issue is that we're trying to hold free and fair elections while having no ability to get our communication out to 160,000 people. Those conditions are incredible and onerous. Most people would have difficulty even attempting to do what we're doing. So I think as long as we are forthright and transparent, which we have been, that's all we really need to be. There's going to be naysayers about the elections, and they're going to say it wasn't this, it wasn't that. And if I'm elected as president, I have no problem debating anybody who has any criticism about the way that we held the elections. I fully stand by it. And I'll also be able to put down about 100 years of legal precedent of collapsed regimes and how the UN and other groups tried to bring them back. The way we're doing it is very standard. We are transparent. We are forthright. Everybody knew. Everybody had the chance to participate. Everybody could be here. Everybody knows what Lewis did. Everybody knows there's a civil war in Yes going on right now. I get phone calls all the time. It's not like people don't know. They all know. And they know my channel. And they could be here, and they could call, and they could email, and they could show up. So if you're in, you're in. And if you didn't, it's not like you didn't know. So if you want to run, run. And if you don't, okay. So I really don't have much sympathy for the people who didn't show up and go. I mean, I get it. You don't know where it's going to go. I'm not sure what the future Yes is either. But you wanted to participate, it's here. So I would say we just have the final election is January 30th, and that is your final time to get your vote in. You have till then to vote on the people. So we could send out a mass email. We could send out texts. We wrap the whole thing up by the 30th, and we take whatever it is. And we just, if these people get 1 or 2 votes, good enough. Because I know somebody's going to say, well, it's not this, it's not that. Well, everybody could run. These are the people who chose to run. Other people didn't choose to run. You could have ran. If you have a problem with it, why didn't you run? Why didn't you let more people know? Initially, how much are we expected to do without no communication channel? I mean, these are really difficult circumstances to be operating under, and I'm applauded by our courage every time when I talk to people about what we're doing. So I would say there's the votes. If you like them, say yes. If you don't, say no. Call in, email me, email Jason, do whatever. You have till January 30th. On January 30th, we'll do a final in-tally vote. I would say we could even do a vote right now. Like for example, I vote for all of you. Boom. CEO, 1 vote. Vice President, 1 vote. Head of Outreach, 1 vote. Boom, done. And if Fuji, I talked to Fuji Shiora about running for press manager, and he was open to it. He didn't say yes. He said he was open to the idea. So I'll do a conditional vote on him. Boom. Fuji, if you run for press manager, I vote for you. There. Now that's one vote for everybody. Jason, if you voted on people right now, and then Robert and the rabbi, we have 4 votes per office right now. You could do the next mass email would be going, here's the vote tally right now. If you don't like it, jump in the race now, or say, no, I don't like this person. And I told you I could get a text message out. I mean, we can make this shit happen today. Your call.
So you think that we should start voting today and end it on the 30th?
Yes.
Okay. And Rabbi, what would you feel about that?
You shouldn't do that because you announced last week that you won't.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I do hear what you're saying, Marcus, and I am aware that I had just said that voting opens on the 30th. Robert, you want to weigh in on this? I mean, this is a democratic effort here, so. Okay, maybe not. All right, so let's make a compromise. If anyone, and now this is a proposal for the group, let me know if you agree or not. If anyone will not be able to make it to next Sunday, 30th meeting, they may vote in absentia starting today, up to the beginning of the meeting. But once the meeting starts next week, all absentia voting stops. And then it's only in-person vote and must be done by the time, all votes must be cast before the meeting's over. How would that sound?
Problem is, that's also rescinding what you said last time, or what you even just said now. Why don't you say you could start today, but you still have the extra week after to finish? That way you're not taking back something you said already.
Okay, I like that. That's a good compromise. Would you be agreeable to that, Marcus?
Sure. Okay.
And Mr. Stark, if you're there.
Let me call Robert. We need him in on this.
Please pardon my touching of my face and all that. I just trimmed back the forest on my face, so it's all itchy.
Robert Stark. I'm having a little bit of difficulty pulling up his phone number. I don't have Robert Stark's phone number. I got a new phone, so life. Give me a second to see if I can pull that up.
Totally.
Does anyone else have Robert's phone number by any chance?
I might, but if I exit my StreamYard to look on my phone, it's, yeah.
Okay.
The one downside to StreamYard. StreamYard developers, if you're listening, allow dual window usage.
Damn. One second. I'm trying to find it. I had it, got a new phone, and Google didn't save my data. A lot of it was lost. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let me try this. Robert Stark. Calling him. Got it.
Please leave your message for 80528.
Okay, let's not let his number hit broadcast on the.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have me do 3 different things at once. Hey, Robert.
No.
Really good user.
Were you trying to call me?
Oh, there you are. Yes, Robert. Marcus was calling
great.
you. I think he's leaving a message right now on your phone. So we were asking how you might feel if we open the voting today and carry it all the way through to not Sunday the 30th, but I think that's Sunday, February 6th would be the next Sunday.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Is it through the meeting or is a way to vote manually through an email?
Yeah, so anyone can vote in absentia through either text message or email. We would prefer to have some sort of written to it, just for records and transparency. I would personally also ask that any votes made in absentia get sent to both Marcus and myself simultaneously, so that he and I both have. Okay, awesome.
What about getting?
Yeah, go ahead.
What about getting to everyone's votes now? That all 4 of us. Like, at least we could start the voting today.
So there's but to clarify, there's no competing people running for the same position. It's just approving all, but there's no competing candidates.
Correct. It's going to be a yay or nay vote. And that way, if someone feels that maybe I'm not cut out to be the CEO, their opinion will be on record and be known. If the no's outweigh the yeses, guess what? I'm not the CEO. But if the yeses outweigh the no's, then I'm in. Does that sound agreeable to you, Robert?
Yes. So I'll just put in my vote now, yes on all.
Alrighty.
Jason, the rabbi?
Yeah, I was going to give Rabbi Axelman the courtesy to go first.
That's because my name ends with an A. Yeah, I'm yes on everybody.
Yeah, and my name ends in a W, so obviously I go last, right? And my vote is also yes for everyone who is running in their respective positions. So that is a total of 4 votes cast in each of those categories. Since I've got my trusty notepad here, I'm just going to go ahead and tally that down. So here you have it, folks. If you're just tuning in, just watching, voting has begun. Voting for new officers on the Calexit Congress. We now have 3 votes Oh yeah, that's right. Only 3, not 4, because we can't vote for ourselves. Almost didn't catch that one. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. There we go. The votes have started to tally, just so you can all see.
Is it? Nice. Okay. Yeah. President, CEO, Vice President, Head of Outreach, Secretary's open, Judiciary Committee's open, Press Manager's open. And we have 4 votes for the 4 office holders already today.
Well, 3 technically. 3 each.
3
because,
each. Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
So I encourage any and all voting members, please make sure you get your vote in. You have from now until February the 6th, which is 1 week after next week's meeting. Any and all votes will be final. So please make sure that if you vote yes, then what you want is yes. Don't feel pressured. This is all about transparency, democratic due process, the works. So please, weigh in, make your thoughts and feelings known. I listen and I do care. So now that that's gotten through, I would like to just take a brief recess from all of the tedium to go into a slightly different kind of tedium, just quickly. I've been working with messaging, and I know as interim president, there's really only so much I probably should do, just because it's interim. However, I feel that the messaging lately has become even more important given the level of mainstream media coverage of national divorce and how other North American independence movements are starting to make actually even bigger ripples than Calexit is making right now. And there's this false narrative that, only hardcore right-wing Trumpians who want to destroy America and hate America and democracy, they're the only people who are interested in such things. So here is my messaging that counters that and points out really that that statement is the opposite from the truth. It's not just wrong, it is literally the opposite. So back in the 1700s, the founding fathers of the United States of America, when they got together and they were formulating how this government would work, how it will be structured, they agreed on a party-based system, meaning people, the voters, join parties that represent their ideals, their beliefs on issues, and they put forth candidates for those people to then vote on. When they agreed on that, they realized they needed to think about how many parties might there be. Should there be a minimum? Should there be a maximum? Some thought that, too many parties would lead to nothing getting done. If you have 1,000 parties and all of them have 1,000 people, no one party is going to be able to outweigh another and, win and come out on top and all of that. ultimately they decided that a maximum was not appropriate. A minimum of parties, however, is very appropriate for democratic due process. They agreed that it should be anything more than two. Anything more than two. The Democrats and the Republicans. Duopoly. This is because they felt that only two parties in a system could not be democratic. It could not actually represent the people, which is what this government was founded to do. So, gradually, the United States fell into duopoly, and then we saw a civil war happen. Gradually, that duopoly, after the Civil War, started to fade, and then started to come back. Where we're at now is a near complete solidification of the duopoly. So not only has it come back, it's trying to make itself permanent, which is, again, literally not in line with democratic due process, not in line with representing the people. So say the founding fathers of the United States of America. So it brings me to how is the duopoly cementing itself? Well, one main way is the freedom to vote. So there are two voting rights pieces. I believe the John Lewis voting rights just got shot down. The other one is the Freedom to Vote Act. Now, the John Lewis one wasn't bad. The Freedom to Vote, however, it sounds good when you hear the title. Oh, freedom and freedom to vote? However, in it, it's all about making it so the government no longer is mandated to provide funding for smaller parties, third parties, independent parties. The government will no longer have to help with the smaller groups and will only be obligated to the two large groups, the Democrats and the Republicans. Without any funding, I'm a Green Party member, so I know this, very personally. Smaller parties, they need that funding. It's mainly the bulk of funding that comes to smaller parties, and it's kind of the only thing that really keeps us existing. And so without that funding, the entities may exist still on paper and in name, but without funding, you can't do things like advertise, do petition and signature drive, anything, because it all costs money. The only thing that we would be able to do from now on is hold meetings like this and talk. And then the other worrying part about it is that, about the Freedom to Vote Act, is that it would actually allow Democrats and Republicans to decide who you really meant to vote for. So, an example, I vote for Howie Hawkins because he's green and he's running for president. But with these new rules, the Democratic Party could say, well, hey, he's a green, and green is pretty close to blue, so we actually get his vote. Who he meant to vote for was Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris, people who I really don't like. I like them as much as I like Trump, which is zero. So not only that, But the Republican Party could claim, well, Greens are somewhat fiscally conservative. So wouldn't that mean that Green votes should go red? Then it's going to be arguments, all out battle for who gets to take these votes. And again, only those two parties get to take those votes. And only those two parties get to decide who your votes go to. This is so out of line with American democratic value. It's pretty disgusting. And I would have to point out to folks, again, just a reminder, this is something being pushed by the Democratic Party. It's not just Republicans are bad. It's the corporate autocracy wants to strengthen its duopoly, wants to solidify it permanently. And if we let them do that, we have basically rolled over, shown our belly, put our hands up, and said, okay, you win. I don't know about you all, but I know I'm a fighter. I'm a survivor. I am not down with just rolling over and playing dead. So it leads me to, how does this relate to Calexit? Well, that is the million-dollar question. If America is no longer acting like America, if America's federal system is no longer the American federal system, what are we as Californians even being tied to? What are we a part of? Surely it's not America. Surely it's not freedom and democracy. I would venture a guess that, the United States, given the way it's headed, is really headed towards either oligarchy or autocracy, like complete and all-out autocracy. And neither of those are democratic. Neither of those allow for people like myself, Marcus, Rabbi Axelman, Robert Stark, any of you folks who are tuning in. It doesn't allow for us to really have our own opinions, make our own choices. In fact, usually those two systems vilify anyone who wants to think for themselves. So again, America has lost its way, and the projection is it's going further and further away from what it was, what it should be, what it could be. And that means that Calexit is the only sane, the only reasonable, the only viable option for those of us in California. If we really want freedom, democratic due process, we need to Calexit before this duopoly is permanently solidified in the American federal system. If we want freedom, we have to pursue it. And funnily enough, that's something the founding fathers said. That's not my words. That's the words of Jefferson, Washington, Franklin, Adams. The founding fathers knew that people are corruptible, and no matter how good something is when it starts, sometimes corrupt people get in and they corrupt a thing. And then it's the duty of the people to go and pursue non-corruption, go pursue the healthy life. And that's what Calexit is. We can legally, peacefully break away from this mess, for lack of a better term. We could break away from it and re-solidify ourselves in democratic due process and true freedom. All we have to do is go for it. So there's my breakdown on messaging. I hope it's clear to everyone. You literally cannot get more in line with American values than this. The transformation of American democracy to oligarchy. You want to give a little breakdown on this, Marcus?
I just found a few articles. So this one is from the Huffington Post in 2015, talking about how America's devolved into an oligarchy, backing up what Jason just said. Here's another article from Newsweek, an opinion piece, the United States of Oligarchy. This came out in March 2021. That's last year. Here's another one from the BBC, from an academic study in 2014. The United States is an oligarchy and not a democracy. And here's another one from the New York Times. Is America becoming an oligarchy on 2019? So we have the New York Times in 2019, the BBC in 2014, Newsweek in 2021, and Huffington Post in 2015. When you add that all up, that's multiple publications from basically 2015 to last year, including Huffington Post, the BBC, Newsweek, and the New York Times, all saying it looks like America's becoming an oligarchy, backing up what Jason is saying.
Thank you for that, Marcus. It's always nice to have some additional proofage there.
Here to back you up. So it's definitely an issue. There's a lot of people talking about it. And that's, yeah, they're just talking about control. Also, let me see if I can find this real quick. Northwestern University study. One second here. There was a study that talked about how Americans don't get what they want. I'm trying to find it.
Like comprehensive health care for all?
There was a study saying, looking at all laws passed from 1979 in America till now. And hold on a second. One second here. Okay, this might be it. Yeah. Okay, here. May I have your permission to do another share screen?
Totally.
Okay, so this was another study that came out. Basically, around 2015, Princeton University and I think Northwestern University did a study of all the laws that the public actually wanted from 1979 till about 2015. And what they found is there's like almost no correlation between what the popular American people want in polling from 1979 through 1980 through 1990 into the early 2000s and what actually gets passed. But if you look at the polling of what the elites and the business class wants, that almost does perfectly align with the laws that get passed. So their conclusion from nearly 2,000 public opinion surveys comparing what the people wanted to what the government actually did was found to be extremely unsettling. The opinion of the Princeton University study, the most exhaustive of its kind, was the opinion that 90% of income earners in America has essentially no impact at all. Put another way, the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. So, unless you're an economic elite, you don't get anything. 90% of what the American public wants means absolutely nothing. This is the most exhaustive study of its kind. nor have the research been challenged by anybody. Here's the study. Testing Theories of American Politics, Elites, Interest Groups, and Average Citizens by Martin Gillens and Benjamin I. Page. Perspectives on Politics, American Political Science Association, 2014, University of Princeton. As they start, who governs, who really cares, and to what extent is the broad body of U.S. citizens, sovereign, semi-sovereign, are largely powerless? So there's the study. Most people, 90%, don't get anything that they want, and the elites do, and that goes back 35 years. And then here you go. After that study came out, here's the New York Times going, wow, is America an oligarchy? Again, the year before that study came out, here's the BBC saying, wow, is America an oligarchy? Then 5 years after that study, here's another article saying, wow, is America an oligarchy? And then here's a study that came out literally the same year that says, wow, is America an oligarchy? Draw your own conclusions. You saw the citations, you saw the references. Those are academic studies. Those are mainstream publications. They're all saying this. This isn't hyperbole and something we just thought up. This is going on. They've been documenting it. It's been proven. Maybe you don't want to talk about it, but that's where Yes California excels. We are willing to go into the awkward, uncomfortable conversations that, frankly, most people are too damn scared to even have. And we've been doing that for years. Jason, back to you.
That was really well done, Marcus. Thank you.
Lack of sleep. We partied pretty hard last night.
So I would like to turn the floor over now to Robert and Rabbi Axelman. Either one of you could go first. If there's anything you would like to add, anything about the messaging, or if there's anything even unrelated to all of this that you feel is important to bring up, just kind of open floor discussion.
Yeah, hey, I don't know if any of you guys watched the hearing in the New Hampshire committee on Thursday.
Yes.
Oh, I missed it.
We should talk about that.
You watched the whole thing?
Yeah, please.
No.
I mean, it's like a 3-hour mess, but incredibly informative and shows you some of what you'll come up against, which you've probably come up against already, and you've probably written about. But even after the long committee hearing, they voted it down 21-0.
Can you type in a link to that video in the private chat, Rabbi? We'll post it up.
I'm trying to find the one that's not the 9-hour one, but that's the 2-hour one. I think this is the best link. 1 second. Let's try.
Wow, I can hang on a 2 to 3 hour meeting, but wow, 9 hours?
The 9 hours was the committee met all day on a whole bunch of different bills. So it's the Committee on State-Federal Relations, and it was like a 3-hour meeting at the end of the day on this. And basically, the committee voted 21-0, calling it inexpedient to legislate, but it still apparently has to have a full hearing in the House of Representatives and a roll call vote, which I'm in the midst of writing up all my comments on this issue. But among the things that I find interesting is 21 representatives voted to not allow people to have a say.
Yeah.
Now, one young representative, if you watched him, made this whole speech about how it's treason to talk about it. And he's actually presented a bill to use the 14th Amendment to make people disqualified for office if they back such a thing.
Which came out right after the representative in New Hampshire proposed it. So he proposed that. He was an elected official. He proposed it. Mike Sylvia, we've interviewed him. Yep. And then right away, another legislator goes, oh, well, I'm just coincidentally proposing this bill saying that if you ever propose bills like what you did, you get removed from office.
Well, he's just making the most amount of noise. to convince everybody that it's treasonous, and that may or may not be why 21 voted against, even though several had promised to vote for. But I'm working on this document that has like all of their claims and the counterclaims and trying to put it into something simple. We made this little, what do you want to call it? Like this little picture. It's a picture of the Declaration of Independence with a big stamp on it saying rescinded.
Oh, nice. That's
Because
Mike
if it's
Sylvia.
unconstitutional, then that's unconstitutional.
Yeah, and I would definitely point out to everyone what Rabbi Axelman here is making us aware of is more ways that American democracy is failing, is ceasing to be, more ways that freedoms and the right to choose for oneself are being taken away. And it's not the left, it's not the right, it's pretty much anyone who's in power, who's part of the corporate establishment, corporate autocracy, oligarchy, call it what you will, what America has become, the manure pile, right? Anyone who's part of that is pushing for less America and more North Korea.
So this is the hearing. This is the press conference. There's Mike Sylvia. We interviewed him. He's worked with Yes California. There's Elliot Axelman, obviously, worked extensively with us. Here's the hearing itself. You can see people speaking. And it looks like about here at the very last minute, they make some sort of regulatory call. So it just goes to him. Okay, everybody spoke. And then this guy's going to bang the gavel and say something, and then it's over. That's my understanding. So we'll put that. You're going to have to go to Odyssey to find that. Yeah, see, I think he basically just quickly dismisses it. Ha, 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 fools. Ha, 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 ha. Okay. So democracy in action, folks.
Yeah, but it's an important hearing because it's as far as anything has gotten in a gazillion years. So.
Oh, yeah.
I give my kudos to all who are involved in that, in trying to make that happen. Not those who shot it down, but those who stand for the rights of the people. I cannot give enough kudos. I have massive love for that.
Yeah, well, Mike Sylvia definitely was the hero of the story so far.
So I just want to point out the similarities here. If I could, please, everybody jump in. If I might have your permission to share screen, I think you may find this interesting. So, Rabbi, perhaps you could explain the similarities with, seriously? Okay. Seriously? Okay, so I don't know. Texas supporters push for a proposal to come up in special session after failing to get hearing. Fredericksburg Republican Kyle Biederman's proposal to let Texans vote on whether the state should secede failed to receive a committee hearing. Can't get access to the article. But as you can see, basically, so Texas had, you just saw it, there was a, it's difficult to talk about it when we can't look at the article, but you just saw the Kyle Biederman was a representative, and he made a proposal for Texas to secede, and he basically got shut down in committee. So that seems, that certainly got a lot of attention when Kyle Biederman did that in Texas. But then, because they had an elected official in Texas propose, let's talk about secession. That got shockwaves. And the very next thing they did was make sure he couldn't even get a committee hearing. So now we're looking at New Hampshire, and you have a representative who's an elected official in a second American state proposing, let's have secession. And they shoot down they did whatever they did. Rabbi, do you see similarities between Texas and New Hampshire?
Yeah, but because of the way their processes work, New Hampshire did much better because it had a 3-hour committee hearing addressed by like 20 some members of the public, and it's going to have a roll call vote. Whereas in Texas, it never got, as far as I know, even into a committee hearing.
Okay.
And that's because every state has such different processes how to do stuff.
Okay. Well, we definitely see 2 states where 2 elected officials who were elected properly through the democratic process actually used their position of power to talk about secession. And I don't think that's ever really happened before since 1860. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not familiar with the last time that you had multiple elected officials who were officially elected in multiple states actually walking through the system and using government to talk about secession. If you also want to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia, while she did not technically use her position to discuss secession, she has been using her position to raise the profile of the idea. So if we look at it that way, there's Biederman in Texas, there's Sylvia in New Hampshire, and there's Greene in Georgia. All 3 officially elected officials, all 3 democratically elected, all 3 representing their constituencies. In neither case is anyone saying these people had a rigged election and nobody in their district thinks that way. That's not what's happening. 3 states, 3 elected officials, everybody's saying, yeah, they were fairly elected and they represent the will of the people where they came from. And they are saying, I'm a formal elected person and I think we should talk about secession. To my knowledge, that many official elected officials in that many states has not happened since 1860. I think that's significant.
Somebody at the meeting mentioned, I don't ever want to hear you tweeting about democracy or civil rights or anything else and voting election rights if you vote against this measure. So I thought that kind of summed it all up.
Yeah, I was going to say something kind of along the same lines there. But that's, I think, the better way to put it. If one is truly in favor of democratic due process and freedom, democracy itself, then one must be willing to discuss, to look into, to look at these sorts of issues, these sorts of ideas. And again, the United States only exists because there was secession from the British Crown. The United States already seceded from its brutal overlords once already. So really, if you want to be more in touch with the Founding Fathers, this is the place to start. Look at freedom, look at what freedoms you have and what freedoms you don't have. And really, really look into it. Decide for yourself whether or not the freedoms that you thought you had are really there, and whether or not you're okay with the level of freedom that you have. Unless you're part of the upper 1% of, monetary holding in the United States, then you've got a significant portion. But for the most of us, we've got that much freedom, that much input, that much say. So decide whether or not you're okay with that, while others are getting that.
Yeah, just to review real quick for everybody watching. So here's New Hampshire in 2022. They actually went through the process. Here's the guy who proposed it. He was elected. They went through the process talking about secession in the New Hampshire government. Here's Texas with Kyle Biedermann's proposal in the Texas government. So that's the Texas government actually talking about secession. This is also in 2021, last year. And then here's Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia talking about secession last year. So 3 states, 3 elected officials, all within the last 2 years. And we really haven't seen anything like that since 1861, when you had elected officials in the South who were not recognizing Lincoln's election or talking about secession. So really easy to document the historical timeline of this. Say what you will about those events, but they haven't occurred in about 150 years. So if you want to say, oh, this isn't going to happen, okay. But I'm very big on trajectory. How did we go from nothing to 3? Additionally, when you add in the fact that California in 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018, although none of us were elected officials, we did get a proposal in front of the voters through the proper legal channels and approved by 3 separate California attorney generals, allowing for a vote on secession. Now, that wasn't an elected official, but here's the difference. California has the amendment or the initiative process where citizens can go around the legislature and propose something. That's highly unique. A few states have it, but nobody is as enthusiastic as California. I might be able to argue that because the initiative process is here in California, we don't have the pressure to go to an elected official. But we did use the same legal process enshrined in the California Constitution and held up by 3 separate California attorney generals. If you look at it that way, what we're looking at is California proposes legal secession. Then Texas proposes legal secession. Then New Hampshire proposes legal secession. And then Georgia proposes legal secession, all through some sort of legally kosher manner of doing so, in a manner in which you have not seen anything like in about 160 years. That's significant. Statistically, that's significant and historically interesting. What I find interesting is that as much as we cover this, nobody in the news has pointed that out, except us here at Yes California or other allied secession movements. So the news is not putting together New Hampshire, Texas, California, Georgia. Here's a pattern the last couple years. There's no one making those linkages. Yet all 3 points are widely reported, but no reporter in America can coalesce those 4 points into a coherent storyline. Intriguing.
I would also point out Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, which isn't a state but is a part of the United States, is a subject of the United States.
Colony.
Yes, all 3 of those are also. So we've actually got 6 different entities within the United States that all are saying they want the same thing, at least in part, right? Maybe not every Californian or every, is it New Hampshireite? New Hampshirean?
Granite Stater.
Oh yes, not every Golden Stater or Granite Stater is 100%, just unanimously, but there is an overwhelming call being put out there. It's loud enough and prevalent enough that it needs to be looked into. It needs to be heard. And the fact that the mainstream media is helping to keep this issue down and keep it out of the limelight and the forefront of American voters' minds, it says a lot. And the fact that the American government across myriad levels, so we've seen the feds do the voting rights stuff. We've seen state legislatures either refuse or just outright deny a committee to talk about the idea, or just go and blatantly undermine it in a way that, you know, reeks of lack of impartiality. We've seen many different ways across many different levels how this topic, this issue, this want of the people, the voters, is being silenced. And in a true democracy, you can't be silencing people. There are plenty of people with opinions that I don't agree with. There are plenty of people who have an opinion pretty much the exact opposite of what I think and feel. But you know what? I am not going to deny their right to think what they think or feel what they feel. I am not ever going to be down with silencing them so they can't talk about what it is that they think and feel. Because I'm for democracy. I'm for democratic process. I'm for reasonability and discussion. Actually looking into issues and figuring it out for the better of the people, not for myself, not for them, not for they or us, for everyone. That's what democracy is about. And again, America just failing left and right on upholding it.
Yeah, well said. Well said. It is close to closing time.
Yes, it has been a little over 1 hour now. I'm okay with closing the meeting here if you are. If anyone else would like to say anything.
Just to remind everybody, please email Jason, please email me, contact us. Here are the offices: President Marcus Ruiz Evans, CEO Jason Wright, Vice President Rabbi Stephen Axelman, Head of Outreach Robert Stark, Secretaries open, Judiciary Committees open, Press Managers open. Everybody who has been right there, as you see, running has already received 3 votes each. So if somebody else would like to run between now and January 30th, get a hold of us. Let's get your name out there. And if you would like to vote yes or no on any of these people, get a hold of us and let's get your name out there. Jason, is there an email that I could post up for people to contact you or me?
Yes. JSRVS or Jason Sean Richard Von Schrader 86 at gmail.com. I'm sure Marcus is typing it up so he can put it. Yep.
Is that it? Okay, so that's JSRVS86 at gmail.com. That's JSRVS86, JSRVS86 at gmail.com. My email is my name. So you can, Marcus.Ruiz.Evans. It's always been that way, real simple, long, but simple. Gmail.com. Also, Jason, Sean, Richard, Von Schrader, 86 at gmail.com. Pleased to have taken you from the royal line. And again, Marcus Ruiz Evans. So here are the people that are able to be voted on. Each of these people have had 3 votes. You can vote yes or no on Marcus Ruiz Evans for president, Jason Wright for CEO, top dog, Rabbi Stephen Axelman as vice president, or Robert Stark as head of outreach. You can also run for the position of president, CEO, vice president, head of outreach, or secretary, or judiciary committee head, or press manager. And have till January 28th to announce that you're going to run and come in. Voting will go for, I believe, a week after January 30th, but still, please get those votes in. Let us know if you want to run. You still have a week to run. You still have a week to say, I don't like those people. I don't like what they're doing. They're saying things wrong. And we will post it. We will get it out there because we want free and fair elections. Now, so far, we haven't heard anything of the kind. But since these videos are recorded and they're going out live, these are going to be records of the transparency of these elections. If you want to get involved, if you have an opinion, if you are upset, if you need to say something, get a hold of us now. Because after we do the elections, we're not going to be upset or apologizing. It's going to be you screwed up and you lost your opportunity because we did everything possible to make sure, to the extent that we could, that people were informed. And I already offered to Jason that if I win the presidency, I'm fully willing to be able to go on the road and debate anybody who would like to challenge the legitimacy and the democratic spirit of the elections that we're holding. I will trash you live on public TV because you are wrong, and we are doing things the correct way. And I have about a decade of experience in international elections, failed states, foreign policy, and also running this organization. Good luck attempting to challenge me. I accept the challenge already. These elections are doing very well. The fact is that we were cut off from our communication channel of 160,000 people. So if that didn't happen, we could be doing a lot better. But when you're the people who actually run the organization and a rogue person has decided that you don't get to talk to anybody through any of the communication channels, and they're going to act like nothing you say exists or that anybody like you thinks that way, it's a little bit difficult. And under those conditions, I think we're doing the absolute best job any human could do under the exact same circumstances. If you disagree, challenge me to a debate. My only condition is that it's live and recorded so that when I embarrass your ass, you can't walk it back. Anything else, Jason?
No, that was great. Rogue Jedi, thank you for tuning in. Al Udal, also, thank you. This has been the second part of the 3-part voting process for decision of new leadership within the Yes California organization, home of the Calexit movement. You've been so kind to us over all of these years, and we appreciate it. We appreciate that you continue to tune in, and we look forward to more discussion throughout the future. Stay safe, everyone.